The British Art Show 8 arrived in Leeds on a Friday, launched alongside our city's annual Light Night, giving the opening a perfect buzz of excitement and anticipation that you would expect. As a student, it was a must-see. I needed to be involved in any way possible, and being amongst the first to view the work was the perfect opportunity. The amount of work was a bit overwhelming at first. I knew then I'd be returning many times to fully appreciate the individual works, at least once a week as it turned out. In partnership with Leeds Beckett University, a series of Tuesday talks was set up. They allowed us to hear from many of the artists firsthand and then receive one-to-one tutorials. These are just some of the notes from the tutorials that I had. This was slightly daunting, receiving the opinions of internationally successful artists, but an invaluable experience. I managed to have tutorials with many of the artists. My practice became much more opened up to different mediums, in particular video work. Looking back, the work that I was creating was filled with juxtapositions, traditional craft-based sculptures evolved including video installations. I found that the talks were a great opportunity to gain insight into the artist's approach to their practice. Previously thinking my practice wasn't particularly connected with a lot of the artist's work, after many of the talks I found myself intrigued with new processes. Artist Aofie Hamilton stated during her discussion that she likes to work with the viewer and invite the viewer to play with the work. I felt this was an important element in the show that wasn't being fully addressed. The idea that contemporary art is involving more participatory elements in its design and thinking processes. The idea of viewing art with little or no understanding of its method and meaning terrifies me most, with the constant fear of, but what if I don't understand it, forcing many to keep a distance from the gallery. With the British Art Show 8, there's a subtle theme of inclusion, or what could be referred to as participation. Of course, we have the obvious pieces by Martina Gamber and Ciara Phillips, but there was a sense of inclusion seen in many more. One such example is of Laura Provost. Already known for her immersive installations, she grabbed us one floor with a piece of hard drive. Walking through the room in Leeds, which you knew her work was located, you began to wonder just where exactly it was. But if timed correctly, you didn't wait too long before the experience. The entire room, which was also hosting a lot of other works, faded into darkness, with only random spotlights to illuminate inanimate objects that sat idly within. You suddenly became aware of things that you did not show much attention to before, such as the electrical fans, or the peculiarly placed croissant that sat just above eye level. This merged with the disembodied voice that spoke for the chosen objects, created instant curiosity. For that brief moment of live action, Provost demanded the room and all the attention in it. This curatorial decision to have her piece, amongst others, was an interesting one and raised many questions around the idea of sharing spaces with other works. At first, I wasn't sure exactly what she was saying, but I didn't care. I just wanted to allow it to happen. I was intrigued. This undercurrent of inclusion and participation throughout the show was a strong influence for myself as a student and now graduate. I began exploring ideas I felt were being raised more carefully, and in turn it reflected in my own work. One of the ways I was able to expand on my own research was through an event created in response to the British Art Show in Leeds called What is Participation? During this event, there were a number of workshops and debates based on people's views on participation and the role it has in today's art world. We ended this day by writing a letter to Edinburgh about our experience with the show and its sense of participation. My continued involvement didn't end there, as along with a small group of students, we created our own response to the show, the video that you seen earlier, also the publication that you have on the desk. We created a video response while making a publication to reflect on how we felt the show had impacted us. The participation event was a great opportunity to talk to a range of people working within the arts. The most important outcome for me was seeing that many shared the same opinion as myself, and participation becoming one of the key elements in contemporary art and a strong theme within the British Art Show. Roland J. Ornato wrote in Blurring the Boundaries to Installation Art, the aesthetic power of installation art does not reside in a singular commoditized object, but in the ability to become, rather than merely represent, a continuum of real experience by responding to specific situations. He notes the importance of not only being present within the piece, but also being part of the piece. Although this statement is used in describing installation art, I feel it's quite prevalent in contemporary art and something that the British Art Show addresses, even if unintentionally. During the time the show was with us in Leeds, we had our flash show, where we get up to a week from finding out the venue to display or create a piece in response to that venue. We were allowed to use part of Leeds Art Gallery, an area almost completely underground that wasn't being used for the show. This proved challenging as to get to the area you had to walk past Martino Gamber's loom through an area the public could not access. Immediately I became intrigued with this overshadowing loom and the attention it gained from people wanting to see it in action. I find it interesting that this old traditional skill had its place in the gallery. It wasn't about a finished polished product, but instead the skill and time that went into the creation. Overlapping the edges of the loom was a partially completed fabric design. It made me wonder if you would ever get to see the finished product, and if in fact it even mattered. That's when I decided to respond to my neighbouring artwork with a performance piece called Looming Loom. As you can see here, placed a level below the loom, I sat up my own work area, complete with a Singer sewing machine. So began my 2-day occupation of the area, sewing a continuous piece of fabric. The design didn't matter. The point of it was to recreate the process of the loom while also playing with the public. They would enter the room in which the loom was placed to the noise of the sewing machine, but with no immediate indication of where the sewing was coming from. Only those truly curious enough to lean over the banister would see the culprit, me, sewing idly away. I enjoyed the idea of looking at the art behind the creation, the process involved, and opening it up to the public by placing it in a gallery setting. This opportunity to have work within the same space as the British Art Show was exciting for all of us as students, but I hadn't realised the difference it would make to my own practice. It was one of the first times I experimented with performance art and forms of documenting. Yeah, so I took a number of videos during the flash show, and that subtly influenced my work from there on in. As you can see, it was quite difficult with a lot of students buzzing around to actually work. The gradual turn of my own practice seems more apparent now looking back. I began with understanding display and the difference that space can make to work. I feel like my interaction with the show gave me a stronger insight into the elements around display work rather than just focusing solely on the creation of a piece. What began as an experiment into documenting our flash show developed and shaped my approach into my practice in a new and different way. It's not going great, this. So this is a video, time-lapse, quite similar to the one you just seen, but we'll just imagine it for now. A lot of this was to do with the opportunities I had to gain with critical analysis delivered by some of the show's artists during tutorials, but also due to later visiting the show in Edinburgh. I was able to see the gallery before, during and after, all while contemplating the curatorial positionings of works and the ideas manifested by this. I was then able to revisit the works in a completely new environment across different venues and notice the difference in how works read depending on their positioning. During its time in Leeds, I became heavily involved with the show, not only through its weekly artist talks and tutorials, but as volunteering as a guide. This became an opportunity to investigate reaction and involvement with the pieces from the public. Having quite a large number of films, the show requires investment. As with any artwork, it requires an investment of time to be able to appreciate, but film slightly more so. To watch every film in the show would take a full day's viewing, which quite a number of people committed to. This could be because of the comfort in viewing a film momentarily removing you from the bright lights and all-seeing eyes of the art gallery walls and placing you in a darkened space where you can relax. Rachel McLean's piece cleverly exploited this element of display with her arrangement of soft beanbags and cosy carpet. The hour-long satirical, darkened Disney-like film was a clever comment on today's sexualization of youth and society's fascination with reality TV. Much more than just a comfortable environment to view work, but a relatable and interesting piece which mesmerised its viewers into wanting more. With many arguing that technology drives us into antisocial seclusion with our apparent addiction just one click away, the British art show 8 is challenging this argument. I believe that contemporary art is becoming more involved with including the viewer as an important commodity rather than a passive viewer. Yes, to an extent they are using the viewer to become part of the experience the piece produces, but they are also relying on the viewer's reaction created by their work. The viewer's role becomes active through its artists, and the viewer's response is important so they can no longer be passive. Something a lot of the artists in the show encourage. Walking around Anthony Hamilton's work, you crouch down and examine and think, is there really ants in there? Benedict Drew's combination of video, audio and sculptural elements asks the viewer's senses to be relinquished and overexposed in order to experience his reflection on society's relationship with technology. I believe the British art show's reflection of contemporary art was an impressive catalyst with a range of mediums focusing on enticing people to think differently and opening them up to a different type of social thinking. The experience of viewing certain pieces is something I find influenced my work greatly. I became transfixed on the power behind the display of work. By the time my degree show came around, I had created hundreds of videos and was increasingly interested in the slight discomfort and confusion that some of the works in the British Art Show 8 had created through their subtle but intentional display decisions. Display of work became increasingly interesting to me, and having been able to visit the show in three different venues fascinated me. For Leeds, the challenge I ensured for the curatorial team was placement and consideration to the themes each piece brought. Personally, I didn't feel like there was a set theme for each of the rooms, but instead soft hints of similar thinking throughout. But that's what I liked about it. The pieces hadn't been shoved into box rooms strictly based on style or theme, but instead worked freely with the occasional hint of similarities. Those similarities became apparent with an overwhelming sense of engagement with the material world. Objects became revitalised or renewed. Stuart Whipps rebuilt an old Mini, Alan Kane created seating from gravestones, and Jesse Wine's recognisable Sports Direct mug became an earthy ceramic wall display. Artists are addressing the social changes of society and challenging the new age of dematerialisation. Some chose to embrace the technology and used it to comment on society's adaptation to the digital age, while others made strong statements by turning to more traditional craft-based mediums. This renewed concentration on objects and interests in the impact of digital aesthetics on the physical world is prevalent throughout the show. Above all else, a key element to the survey show for me as a student was its decision not to be shown in London. Having a show like the British Art Show come to a city sparks creative discussion and enables an opening of ideas and concepts. I feel like Leeds responded to this huge source of inspiration in abundance, palpable for all creative thinkers. Particularly we as students lived and breathed the British Art Show for its brief visit. Even visiting the empty space left behind after its departure and creating our own responses, as you've just seen in the video. Overall, the show helped us bring art into spotlight for Leeds, and for its fleeting visit, I feel its impact is still causing ripples within the community today. Thank you.